Hari Om. At the offset, we extend a warm welcome to our dignitaries, staff, students, parents, and alumni joining us online and here at the MPH. We hope that by the end of today, you will carry with you an experience worth talking about for days to come.
As you listen to the meticulously drafted talks by the students here today, keep in mind that TED Ed is not only about how well a speech is delivered, it's also about the originality, the message, and the ideas that the speakers bring to the stage with the hope of leaving a lasting impact on the thoughts of our dear audience.
Today, we are not gathered here not just to listen to these speeches, but to reflect, think, and question our own ideas and thoughts, and to develop ourselves to become less superficial and more profound in the way we think.
On that note, on behalf of the entire TED Ed team, it's our pleasure to officially welcome all of you to TED Ed at CIRS 2026.
Now, we invite our dignitaries to light the ceremonial lamp. We invite Srimati Shanti Krishnamurthy,
Srimati Rajeshwari,
Shri Ganesh,
Brahmacharini Bhakti Chaitanya,
and Shri Satish.
शुभं करोति कल्याणं आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिर्विनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् ॐ श्री चिन्मय सद्गुरवे नमः गुरवे नमः.
With the lighting of the lamp, may we also, through today's event, move from the darkness of ignorance towards the light of knowledge. May the light of all lamp illuminate not only the stage, but also the minds and hearts of all gathered here. Thank you, dignitaries.
As we begin this journey of ideas and inspiration, let us start with the blessings of the Almighty. For this, I call upon Sadhana, who will play the instrument that symbolizes art and creativity itself, a performance that brings us closer to the Bhagwan himself.
Thank you, Sadhna, for that amazing performance. The Veena is not just an instrument, it's a gateway to tranquility. It's a spellbinding performance. The artist truly brought out a sense of calm to the hall and prepared us for the days to come.
Now, we are honored to welcome our keynote speaker, an individual whose smile and kindness never fails to lighten our mood. Her insights echo the very spirit of this event, the TED Ed. Please join me in welcoming Srimati Rajeshwari, our dear principal, to share her vision with all of us.
Respected Shanti ma'am, all my dear children, as well as my colleagues, I also welcome my parents and the alumni who have joined us online. Hearty welcome to each one of you for this beautiful TED Ed 2026, which is being organized at CIRS. You know, dear children, there's a very short story which I'll narrate. There was this heavenly bird somewhere in the heaven. This bird had laid down eggs, and the eggs were coming and falling down. And the mother bird was very, she was very, very sad. The eggs are falling down. She started going towards egg and started crying in pain. Come on, dear, my little birds, break the shell, spread your wings and start flying high. But all the little, birds, babies which were inside the nest, inside the egg, they were very comfortable and cozy. They said, we are very happy, we are fine. Why we should break this shell and spread our wings and come out? So they were all falling down. Mother was very, very disheartened, very depressed, and she was seeing all the eggs falling down. One bird made an attempt. That little bird broke the shell, spread the wings and started flying very, very high. And the view from up is always beautiful. And the bird started enjoying up with the mother. So too are these 14 children who have decided to break the shell, spread their wings and fly high, sharing their ideas with all of us. Let us put our hands together for these wonderful 14 speakers who tried to come out of that comfort zone. Many of us are very, very comfortable in our own comfort zone. Very few are those people who break those comfort zone and try to come out and shine in world. And I congratulate these 14 students. They are not here. We are not just celebrating these 14 students. We are celebrating their courage, their conviction, their perseverance, everything we are celebrating here today. Ideas are very powerful when they are presented with courage. And these are the children who are going to do that by sharing their ideas with all of us. I also congratulate all the teachers and lot of student mentors who were the spirit behind these children in preparing them, in guiding them, in motivating them. Congratulations to each one of you. All wishes to all my dear children. Please do your best. Thank you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Didi, for that thought-provoking speech. Your words never fail to inspire us to be better and more thoughtful in all that we do.
Now, the time has finally come to welcome the very people we have been waiting for, the 14 voices of inspiration and ideas. Today, we have speakers ranging from the junior most class, grade 6, to soon-to-be graduates of grade 12. Each of them is brimming with hope and excitement to share their ideas with you. So without further ado, it's time to call up our very first speaker.
Check.
There are two kinds of people in the world. People who know the answer and people who confidently make one up. But what happens when you do neither?
Boys and girls, please welcome our first and youngest speaker of today's event, Gargi Sharma, to find out what really happens when you don't know the answer.
Check. I believe there are only 3 moments in my life when I experience real fear. The first is watching a horror movie alone. The second is when my parents say, we need to talk. And the third is opening a test paper. Now, that might sound strange because technically opening a test paper is just flipping a sheet of paper. That's it. No danger, no monsters, and no dramatic music. And yet, for some reason, my heart starts beating faster than it does during sports. The funny thing is that before the exams, I'm always confident. The night before, I convince myself I know everything. In the morning, I carry extra pens, I sharpen my pencils, and arrange my stationery. Somehow, I feel that if I'm organized enough, the exam will respect me. It never does. And then, as I walk into the exam hall, everything feels different. The classroom is the same, the chairs are the same, the walls are the same. But the room feels serious, as if everyone has silently agreed something important is about to happen. As I sit, I notice something interesting. Nobody really looks relaxed. Some people are revising, some are staring at the notes, while some are pretending to be calm. I know this because I'm pretending to. And then the teacher enters with a stack of question paper. And now, I don't know why, but whenever I see that stack of paper, my confidence immediately drops. I start wondering, did I study enough? Did I forget something important? What if the chapter I studied the least becomes the biggest question? My brain becomes a full-time overthinker. And then the teacher announced, "You may begin." And I flip the paper. The first thing I look for is not the answer. I look for hope. I scan the page for something familiar. Anything familiar. A question, a diagram, even a word. Just something that tells me, "Gagi, you're gonna survive this." Sometimes the first question is easy. And immediately I feel better. Life is good. Future is bright. My confidence returns. But then, as I reach question number 3, and now I'm no longer sure which language I'm reading. I read the question once, then again, then one more time, slowly, very slowly, as if reading the question carefully will somehow create the answer. Unfortunately, it doesn't. Usually, at that moment, I start negotiating with myself. Maybe the question isn't hard. Maybe I'm just tired. Maybe if I stare at it long enough, inspiration will arrive. It doesn't arrive either. But then something really interesting happens. I start writing. Not because I suddenly remember the answer to every question, but because I understand that the exam isn't asking me to be perfect. It is asking me to try. And that changes everything. The moment I stop worrying about getting each and every answer right, I start thinking more clear. As the exam continues, I believe one more thing changes. Time. During normal life, time moves slowly. But during an exam, it disappears instantly. Especially the last 5 minutes. I think that the scientists should study those minutes. Those minutes move faster than any minutes in the human history. Everyone starts writing fast, including me. During the beginning of my exam, my handwriting starts beautifully. But by the end, it looks like a secret code that even I cannot decode. And then the bell rings. The strange thing is that I never feel one emotion. I feel relief because it's over. I feel curious because I want to know how I did. And sometimes I feel regret because now I remember the answer to a question which I couldn't 5 minutes earlier, which isn't helpful at all. But over my emotional journey of an exam has taught me something. It is not about the test paper. It's neither about the marks. It is about how to learn to deal with uncertainty, how to keep thinking when I feel stuck, how to stay calm when I immediately don't know the answer, and how to keep on moving when question number 3 seems impossible. Because life is like that too. Sometimes we know exactly what to do. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we feel confident, but sometimes we feel lost. But we move forward anyway. And maybe that's the real lesson hidden inside every test paper. Not what I remember, but who I become when I don't know the answer. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Gargi. You showed us that not knowing the answer isn't something to be afraid of. Sometimes it is the moment when we become curious.
Think a little deeper and discover something we didn't expect. Can we please have another round of applause for her?
One ordinary box.
One ordinary moment. What's inside the box?
Your hidden potential.
Your life ahead? Or something completely unexpected? This speech makes us question the way we've been living.
Let us call upon Adya Tulsian for her talk.
Check. You've been looking at this box since I walked onto the stage. Some of you think it's empty. Some of you think it's just a prop. One person is probably wondering if there's a snake in it. And here's the fascinating part. I haven't said a single word about what's inside, yet almost every single person in this room has already created a story. Right now, some of you are convinced this box is empty. Others are convinced it isn't. All of you are wrong because none of you have any evidence, only confidence. You do realize we don't do this just with boxes. We do it with people. Imagine meeting someone for the very first time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 seconds. That's all it takes before your brain quietly whispers, they are intimidating. They're so kind. They're so successful. A lifetime can begin or end inside 7 seconds. What's strange is that we know first impressions aren't always accurate, yet somehow we trust the very first story our mind tells us. As children, curiosity came naturally. Why is the sky blue? Why do birds fly? Why? But somewhere along the way, we stopped asking. Instead, we began deciding. That person is annoying. I'm terrible at math. People like me don't do things like that. Think about that sentence for a second. People like me. Who said who people like you are? When a child learns how to walk, they fall. Again, and again. Imagine if adults learn to walk the way we learn to live. The first time we fell, we decide that walking is just not for me. Ridiculous. But we do that with everything else. One bad presentation becomes, I'm terrible at public speaking. One rejection becomes, I'm unworthy. One failure becomes, I'm a failure. But this is not who we are. This is what someone else thought for us. The biggest prison in the world has no walls, no bars, no guards, just stories. Stories repeated until they sounded like facts. But who wrote your story? For a very long time, I believed that I was terrible at public speaking. Not once, not twice, but for 3 years, I lost every elocution I entered. My backstage banter looked something like trembling Adya with shaking hands, her eyes bawling out, and her mother trying. I emphasize on trying to encourage her. And after a point, the voice just got to me. You are not meant for this. Others are way better. Stop trying. It sounded true. But I realized, what if? What if that voice wasn't actually me? That voice was not born with me. It was learned from failure, from comparison, from pressure, from fear. And if it was learned, it can definitely be unlearned. So I tried one more time. Not because I suddenly became confident, but because I was tired of believing that version of me that said I couldn't. And on the fourth year duly arrived. This time, I did not participate. I won. As one label passes, one door closes. So make sure you keep that door open. For something we've carried our whole lives, the label weighs almost nothing. Maybe the weight was never in the label. It was always in the believing. Imagine carrying this label, average, for 10 years. This one, too emotional, 20 years. Other one, 30 years. Eventually, you stop carrying the labels begin carrying you. Now, the main star of the show, what's inside this box? Let me break it to you. The box is empty, but it's still the most powerful thing in this room. You ask me why? An empty box is not empty because it has nothing. It's powerful because it still has room. Room for curiosity, for courage, for changing yourself, for becoming a version that even you don't know. I never wanted you to remember this box. I wanted you to remember the moment you realized that you were never trapped inside it. Leave room to become. This box has another secret. It forgets. Every label we placed on it, every story we attached to it, the box remembers none of it. Life does. There's something extraordinary about being human. We celebrate beginnings. First words, first day of school, first friend. Nobody celebrates the last. Nobody whispers in your ear, this is the last moment your mother loudly calls your name from the kitchen. Because the last has a strange habit. It does not ask for your attention. It simply passes by, just like another ordinary moment. You will never know one day when you're sitting in your grandmother's room, playing with her silver long hair, asking her for one more warm hug, would one day become the last. If you would have known, you would have hugged her a little tighter, looked at her a little more carefully, and listened to her song as though it were a melody you might never hear again. Your 10th grade farewell might feel ordinary too. You'll laugh, you'll click pictures, you'll promise each other things. Life will have other plans. Sometimes, see you tomorrow quietly becomes, I hope you're doing well. Maybe that's why I brought this box. Not because it represents assumptions, not because it represents labels, but because it's ordinary. And ordinary things are the first things we stop noticing. So call someone. Stay a little longer, hug a little tighter, tell people you love them while they can still hear it. Because life is unpredictable. You never know when the last moment actually becomes the last. When I walked onto the stage, I asked you to wonder what was inside. I think I was asking the wrong question. The better question is, what ordinary moment are you living through today that one day your future self would give anything, anything to relive just once more? And perhaps the purpose of life is not to fill every empty box or prove every label wrong. It is to notice the extraordinary hidden inside the ordinary until it quietly becomes the last. Thank you and Hari Om.
Check.
Check. One ordinary box.
The box was ordinary,
What's inside the box?
but the last moments were fleeting. Thank you, Adya, for that beautiful talk. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
A question.
And perhaps an answer we've all been carrying without realizing. We're told to get back up when we fall, to bounce back, to keep going. But what if we're looking at resilience the wrong way?
Today, we are going back to an old childhood toy box, where a simple toy might make us question everything we know about rising, falling, and what lies in between.
And to dive deeper into this, let's explore the idea with Lok Vishwaveda.
Welcome to the stage, Lok.
Check, check. Who's there? Me. Actually, it's a bunch of me's. All of these are pictures of this one kid who used to just walk this world as if he owned it all to himself. And just like any other kid, he loved one thing. One thing that made every kid on this goddamn planet go crazy about. And that is toys. In fact, I had this big box of toys just for me and my elder brother, over which we fought almost every single day. And what fascinated me so much was this one particular toy. And that was the mighty, slightly dangerous, yet rebellious bouncy ball. Very fun to play with until it hits your face. But what fascinates me so much is its physical property to bounce right back up when I throw it. You throw it down and it comes right back to your hand. And the first thing that comes to my mind when I look at this ball is the word resilience. And people often keep saying, when life knocks you down, oh little dear one, just be the ball, fall, bounce, and rise. Somewhere along the way, this tiny ball has become the world's favorite metaphor for resilience. But wait. Are we missing something? I mean, are you missing something? Because you see, the ball does not bounce back on its own. There is this one villain that changes the equation entirely. Earlier, we had the equation ball equals bounce. And that one villain which changed the equation is the floor. You see, the ball does not bounce without a floor. So our new equation now becomes ball equals bounce plus floor. And with some basic third grade algebra magic, we will get ball minus floor equals bounce. But how does any of this matter? Because you see, in life, when you face challenges, there often isn't a floor for us to bounce back. At times of failures, we perceive them to be endpoints, as if stuck in this endless void which we cannot possibly swim across. And trust me, you are this lone warrior in life. There will be no one to help you. And if there was one person that could help you, it's you. And if there was one person that can be your best friend and your worst enemy, it's you. So, at times of failures, there will be no one to help you. And what is this? This is resilience. To understand what resilience is, let me define it in my way. I would like to define resilience as the ability to adapt, recover, and to keep continuing forward, not because the world lifts you, but because you choose to rise. Now that we have understood what resilience is, what is that something that makes resilience itself, but that is not the ball? You see, what is that symbol that represents resilience, but in a complete manner? So naturally, I did what any child would do. I went back to my box of toys. And this time, I dug. I kept searching. And I had found cars. I had found dinosaurs with one leg. I had found many more. And then suddenly, I felt something. Something that felt right. This time, I had found the humble yo-yo. With a flick of your wrist, the yo-yo drops. So quick, so fast, looks like it's almost over. But wait, at the end of the string, the yo-yo goes like, no thank you floor, and comes right back to your hand. And that's what makes the yo-yo so special. You see, the yo-yo does not require a floor. Rather, it uses its string to climb right back up. But most importantly, the yo-yo uses its own inner strength to climb back up. And that same inner strength is the inner momentum all of us require to experience resilience. So where did this inner strength go? We had people like Adi Shankaracharya ji. We had people like Vikram Sarabhai. We had people like Sardar Vallabhai Patel. And who do we have now? We have phone addicts. We have drug addicts. We have brain-rotted people. And worst of all, we have mediocre people. So where did this inner strength go? I believe to answer that question, we need to answer another one before. And that is, what did all our forefathers have that we are still chasing behind? What is that something that made a normal man a great man? And we all know it, but very few practice it. It's that quiet promise you make to yourself and that might to keep moving forward, even when no one's watching. And that, my friend, is discipline. Sounds cliche, right? Because I believe discipline is a word that has lost its true meaning. In every class, every school, we use this word. You go late for jogging, and boom, discipline is the word you're shouted with next. You go late for jogging class, and the list never ends. So now that we have understood discipline is the missing factor, we come to our previous question, which is, where did the inner strength go? It did not go anywhere. It was always in those hands. Those very hands of yours with one thing, one choice to make a change, one choice to make a difference, and one choice to rise back up just like the yo-yo through its string. Now you may ask, the yo-yo has a string, but we don't, right? Actually, we do. I believe that our string starts with a choice followed by discipline. And then you reach your hand. That is your destination. Now, if you reach that destination, a choice followed by discipline. And discipline, after discipline, you reach your hand. That is where you want to be. Next slide. And with that discipline, understanding this, feeling this with conviction is what true resilience is. Because in life, there often isn't a floor for us to bounce. Like the famous saying goes, the strongest hand you will ever hold is your very own. And sometimes finding your way back starts with a choice no one else makes for you. And the hardest choice is always the smallest ones. To try again. So, feeling this with conviction is what true resilience looks like. So maybe we're looking resilience at the wrong way. I think we have always been telling people to bounce back up, and I think it's time for us to tell them to find their way back. Because you see, the ball requires a floor for it to bounce, whereas the yo-yo only requires itself, and that makes real difference. Because so the next time you feel you have hit a floor of nothingness, just be the yo-yo. Because in life, it isn't the fall that defines you, rather, it's the comeback. Thank you and Hari Om.
Check.
We are often told that resilience means bouncing back, but perhaps the real strength lies in something deeper, in choosing to rise where there is no bouncing from any surface beneath you.
Lok reminded us that sometimes the way isn't given to us, we have to find it. Can we have another round of applause for Lok?
After those three beautiful speeches, exploring our journeys, hard work, and question papers, the time has come to lighten up the mood with a unique musical performance.
In which, surprisingly, no musical instruments are used. To clear up your confusion, we present to you a musical performance by our students.
Sit back and enjoy. That was truly brilliant. Can we give it up for these students?
And let us also thank Karthik sir for guiding the students and bringing this wonderful performance together.
Thank you, musical team.
Check, check, check. What if I told you that one of the most ordinary things in this room could hold an entire chapter of someone's life? Not because it's rare, not because it's valuable,
but because somewhere along the way it became connected to a moment that mattered. A memory, a feeling, a person, all attached to something that to everyone else might mean absolutely nothing.
Our next speaker is here to explore why we give ordinary things extraordinary meaning. Boys and girls, please welcome Yutika Rathi to the stage.
Check, check. Check. When I, when I walked onto the stage, I carried a bag. Inside it, at the first glance, seemed something almost meaningless. A tennis ball. It weighs only 60 grams. It is made out of rubber and felt. It rolls, it bounces, it spins, and it can be replaced with just a few rupees. And yet, for years, this has been the heaviest thing that I've owned. Not for what it is, but for what it represented. And that raises an interesting question. How can something so physically small carry something so emotionally heavy? The answer is simple. Objects do not carry meaning, we do. A song is just a collection of sounds until we connect it to a person, place, or a moment. A photograph is just ink and paper until it is a sudden reminder of someone who we really miss. A familiar smell is just a chemical reaction until it takes us years back into the past. Maybe it's the food that your grandmother used to make, which you absolutely love. Or it's an old message which you refuse to delete because somehow deleting it felt like losing a part of that moment. The object itself is ordinary, but the meaning that we attach to it is not. Humans have a strange ability. We do not simply experience the world. We interpret it. We take ordinary things and fill them with invisible stories. And sometimes those stories become heavier than the objects themselves. That is what this tennis ball did to me. When I was young, I used to love the game and I simply played it because I loved it. I loved hitting the perfect shot. I loved that I improved little by little. I loved every time walking onto the court, knowing that every practice was going to make me a bit better. But slowly, something changed. Every single match became a test, not just of my skill, but of whether all the time, effort, and belief people had put in me was worth or not. And I'm pretty sure all of us experience something similar. A single bad grade can make a student question their ability. One awkward conversation can make us replay it for weeks. One rejection can keep us thinking, why weren't we the ones who were chosen? The moment itself is very small, but we make it feel enormous. Then came one tournament. It wasn't the biggest I'd played, it wasn't a championship. But to a 13-year-old me, it felt like everything depended on it. I still remember standing right behind the baseline before my match. Just one thought in my head. Yutika, don't mess this up. The match was close. Every point felt heavier than the last. My hands were tense, my heart was racing, and then came one rally. One shot, one mistake, and the ball just flew beyond the line. The match was over. I shook my opponent's hands. I smiled because that's what players were supposed to do. And then I got in my car and left. Nobody blamed me. My friends told me I played really well. My parents were really proud of me. But I just couldn't believe them because my mind had already decided what that moment meant to me. It wasn't just a lost point. It was an evidence that maybe I'm not good enough. That night, when I opened my tennis bag, this ball rolled out. And I just took it in my hands and stared at it. And suddenly, it stopped being just a tennis ball. It became failure, disappointment, a reminder of a person who I'm afraid I might be. The object itself is very small, but the thoughts that I put in it made it feel so big. It sat on my desk for months. And every time I looked at it, I did not see the progress I'd made or the matches I'd won. I just remembered that one mistake. And that is the dangerous thing a story can do to us. The human brain is designed to find meaning. It connects events together. It searches for patterns. And it answers the question we often ask ourselves. What does this say about me? And sometimes we answer that question way too quickly. We forget that one moment is only one moment. A chapter does not define the entire book. One experience does not say everything about who we are. One failure becomes, I'm such a failure. One embarrassing moment, and we keep thinking, how do I always end up embarrassing myself? One moment becomes a lifelong label. But a moment is not an identity. An event is not a definition. The reality of what has happened and the meaning that we attach to it are two completely different things. The reality is the event, and the meaning that we attach to it is the story. And the story is where our power exists. Because the same experience can have different futures depending on the meaning we decide to give it. A mistake can be a proof that we are incapable, or it can be a proof that we are learning. A failure can be a reason for us to stop, or it can show that we are brave enough to try. The event stays the same, the story changes. And I think that is something all of us can remember, because everyone has their own tennis ball. Maybe it's something someone said to you long back. Maybe it's a mistake you made. Or it's just something which everyone has forgotten, but you keep carrying it. And that is the reason it feels so heavy, because you have kept on carrying it ever since. The interesting thing about stories is that they can shape our lives. They influence the way we see ourselves. They are the ones, the choices we make, and they are the chances we are willing to take. But at the end of the day, they are just stories, and stories can still change. When I walked onto the stage, I carried the bag containing the same tennis ball I did when I arrived. And nothing about the ball has changed, but somehow it just feels lighter, because I finally understood something. The things which are the heaviest in our lives are not always the ones we carry in our hands. They are the ones we carry in our minds. Today, since long, I have not been carrying a tennis ball. I have been carrying a story. And today, I choose a different one. Thank you.
Check.
Check. Thank you, Yatika. You made us look at ordinary things a little differently, because sometimes the smallest things carry the biggest stories.
And most importantly, you reminded us that while we may not be able to change what happened, we can choose what it means to us. Can we have one more round of applause for Yutika?
What if the very feeling which I hardest to hide is actually our greatest intellectual superpower? Today's speaker takes us through the beauty of the unfinished, challenging us to drop the mask of certainty.
Get ready to rethink doubt and step into the courage to be confused. Please welcome Disha Bhimani on the stage.
Check, check.
Picture this, a 1,000-piece jigsaw puzzle and almost half a day already gone solving it. Pieces scattered around like broken thoughts. And nothing makes sense except the fact that everything is just chaos. Then someone walks in, takes a glance at the mess around you, and asks you the one question you were dreading. Do you even know what the final picture looks like? And all that comes out of your thoughts, barely above a whisper, is just 4 small words. I am not sure. The moment these words are out, some part of us almost assumes that we've already lost. And this is not just a small kind of confusion between a 1 TB or a 2 TB phone. This is the other kind. The kind that does not have any answer key to flip your pages. And no book back answer ready either. But isn't it confusion itself from where every discovery, every innovation, and every leap forward has slowly begun? Speaking of puzzles, there's one over here with me today, and one whole layer of it is yet to be completed. Oh, don't worry. This is not an art competition, and I'm not going to call any of you to come up here and finish it for me. Not every missing piece needs to be filled immediately. Look up for the word confusion and you will find something like this. A state of not being able to understand clearly or not thinking properly. Read like that and confusion can never be appealing. It literally sounds like a flaw. Proof that we simply aren't sharp enough. And maybe that is why many of us hesitate accepting I am confused. But if that is actually true, and if confusion is actually a flaw, then why does it appear in the lives of every trailblazing scientist, every obsessive inventor, every audacious entrepreneur, and every inquisitive student who has ever learned something difficult? Why is it that before a big breakthrough, or right before something makes sense, nothing makes sense at all? Here's the thing, the definition is not wrong. It has just left the story unfinished. It describes confusion's discomfort but leaves out its purpose. And due to this incomplete picture, we often mistake confusion for incompetence. We feel someone who says, I am confused, is not thinking clearly, when in fact they may be thinking harder than anyone else present in the room. They may be thinking, yes, really thinking, connecting ideas, questioning assumptions, trying to build an understanding that did not exist a few moments ago. Or maybe trying to put the last layer at its right place. Confusion makes us uncomfortable. It can even challenge our confidence. It can make us doubt ourselves. Sometimes it even whispers that annoying little sentence into us. Maybe you're just not good enough. Honestly, our inner critic deserves an Oscar for dramatic storytelling. But that does not mean we're incapable, does it? So if confusion is not the enemy, then why do we still flinch from it? Why does it feel safer to nod along with a room full of nodding heads than to raise your hand and say, I am confused? The real question here is not how do I avoid confusion. It is how do I stay with it long enough for it to teach me something I'm struggling with. Researchers in education actually proven this. When students struggle through a problem and before they arrive at its solution, they go through what's called productive confusion. And here's the best part. Students who struggle through it end up understanding the concept more deeply than those who were simply handed the answer. Interesting, right? Think about it. The very feeling which we all judge and try to find the escape door turns out to be a tool for deeper thinking and a better understanding. And psychologists
call this moment a cognitive impasse. Now think of your brain as a phone mid-update. And you know the very feeling where everything slows down, apps freeze mid-tap, and your phone does not respond the way you expect it to. And if you're anything like me, then you just unlock your screen every 20 seconds, staring at that loading bar, as if watching hard enough would magically drag it to 100% so that you can finally get back binge watching. But here's the thing. During that update, your phone is not malfunctioning or becoming slow. It is just becoming better. I remember standing in front of a museum once, completely blank. And it was a painting that I didn't get it. So I turned to my grandfather and said, "What's the big deal in this? I don't get it." And he just smiled and said, "That's all right. Not every missing piece needs to be filled immediately. And similarly, not every painting is supposed to be understood in 5 minutes." So I stood there a little longer, and slowly I started noticing things I had not seen before. Colors, patterns, and minute details I had walked past 100 times without seeing. We often expect understanding to arrive instantly, the way we expect 2 minutes to be enough for instant noodles. But some ideas simply refuse to be rushed. They ask us to stay a little longer, to sit with the question instead of running away from it. And this is exactly where courage begins. Not in every answer that suddenly appears, but in the quiet moment where we choose to stay curious instead of just pretending to be certain. This puzzle right here, is not just a block of wood, but every wobble, every piece, and every pause before the next piece is a thought of confusion. But the real answer is not just this or just the tower itself. The real answer is this. Behind every moment, behind every wobble, and behind every moment where I stood here thinking I'm not sure about the next move, there was always something waiting. My reflection, your own reflection. Because no one else can complete a puzzle of life for you except you. You are the source of getting out of the maze of confusion. Not a dictionary, not a search engine, not even ChatGPT. The person who has to sit with it, stay with the confusion, and keep placing the blocks will always be you. So the next time when life hands you a tower that wobbles, or a stack that refuses to balance, or the time when "I'm not sure" slips past your lips, or when the time when your teacher asks, "Who does not understand?" do not hear it as a sentence filled with doubt. Hear it as an invitation to the world of questions, invitation to learn, to question a little more, and to grow a little further. Because universe is not with a budget. And do not stop asking questions. Because this is where limits disappear. This is where curiosity begins. This is where your tomorrow begins. And this is the courage to be confused. Thank you.
Check.
Check.
Confusion isn't a dead end. It is where the real learning begins. So the next time you find yourself unsure, don't stay silent. Raise your hands and embrace the unknown and have the courage to ask the question.
Thank you, Disha, for reminding us that uncertainty can be the beginning of discovery. Let's hear it for Disha once more. Oh shoot, the lights just went out.
What do we do now?
Turn on the generator?
Of course.
But what if we told you that our minds have their own generator? One that keeps running, sparking one thought after other. long after the first has been processed.
If that has left you wondering what we mean, don't worry. Our next speaker is here to shed some light on the idea. Please join me in welcoming Vidur Vaibhav to the stage.
Take some time right now to imagine a goal that you wish to accomplish. Choose one that actually means something to you. Perhaps it is some kind of academic accomplishment that you wish to achieve. It may even be something creative you've been thinking of but postponing for months. Have you got it? Picture that image. Now, visualize yourself in that situation. If you were really honest, you would say that it is perfect. Inside the safe space of your mind, you've achieved it without any efforts. You know exactly what the end result would look like because it appears absolutely clear to you. You can hear the applause ringing in your ears. You can feel the satisfaction that you've received as a reward for accomplishing the task. At a particular time in my life, there were things that I did not know of. It was that our mind has the ability to produce something that I would like to call designing the invincible. Our mind has a natural incubation facility where thousands of ideas, dreams, and concepts are neatly organized in an ideal state, ready to be expressed into the real world. This is a powerhouse of pure potential. And this is what is special about this particular heaven. There is no failure. There is no judgment. There is no embarrassment. And there is definitely no friction involved. One could keep his ideas safe as long as he wishes. But what happens when an idea has to be taken out of this particular enclosure? The second our ideas face reality, they often shatter. The same continues until you've perfected one idea, which is able to withstand the harsh cruelty of the real world. Our ideas turn into failures by our incompetence to execute, by timing, and by pure chance. This is why people cannot stop themselves from living inside this incubator. This was the very lesson that was brought home to me in a most unforgettable fashion. I set out with great conviction to learn a professional diving plunge of a competitive start block in our community pool. Ever before I even set foot at that facility, I spent days brewing this vision inside my mind. With the right vision, it could be seen that a great film of athletics would be playing in front of your eyes inside my mind. I could see myself soar with all my strength and plunge into the water via an extremely splashless hole well ahead of everyone else. In this incubation center of mine, my dive was perfect. A true 10 out of 10. But then the day arrived where I had to actually stand at the brink of it all. I mounted the ladder. I mounted the platform. My knees trembled. I started shaking. My heart beat faster. I told myself to believe in my visualization. I bent down and tried to propel myself. It was a total failure. The second my toes were off the start block, everything seemed to go out of my mental script. It was as if I got whacked mid-drift with some hard wood. My goggles collided with my nose violently, filling up with burning chlorine water. I felt the front part of my body burning as I reached the bottom of the pool. This is the feeling of being lost in paradise. It is a highly specific disappointment one experiences when the thing he's been striving for manifests itself in reality, only for him to realize that an incredible vision in his mind turned into something totally humiliating. This is why people cannot stop themselves from living inside this incubator. The first reason is that the incubator is safe. If you don't write an essay, it can never get graded. If you don't play a sport, you may always seem to be a superstar. Even without trying to dive, I would consider myself an Olympic level swimmer. However, it is tragic when we choose to shelter our potential within the safety of our minds. Because when we look back at those who made an actual difference. We realized that greatness wasn't accomplished through staying in the safety of one's mind, but by understanding the nature of laws concerning the messiness of ideas. Ralph Waldo Emerson recognized this ability in human nature and said, "Do the thing and you will have the power." He didn't say, "Wait until you have the power." He didn't say, "Wait until you've perfected your skill." But he said, "Do it." You must be in that mess. You must feel that discomfort. And then power and skill will follow. The second reason why we don't dare try out for the team is because when we do something courageous and fail, what do others think about us? Perhaps the most compelling example would be watching a novice gather up his courage to present his first speech. A child learning how to ride a bicycle, and an impending singer whose voice is starting to crack on stage. When you look at them, what do you feel? Do you feel contempt? When you see them, does your mind say, "What an incompetent failure"? Well, these are people daring enough to step into the real world with courage, risking a messy, imperfect mistake. And by doing so, they give the rest of us permission to be human. When we hide our thoughts and dreams inside our mind thinks it is not important. They become daydreams. Only when we do something in the real world, our mind thinks it is important. Only when we do something, we wake up, our minds open up. Our ideas at their inception may seem like failures, but through time and effort, they can be perfected. It took several weeks before I could actually perform a proper dive. It was not perfect, but it wasn't a complete failure. It was perfect in its imperfection. I had to accept that my initial failures were just stepping stones towards my success. You must do it. You must make that first move, and then you will see a masterpiece right in front of your eyes. Thank you.
Check.
And with that, we come to the end of a journey to the powerhouse of thought generation. From the first spark of an idea to the words we use to bring it to life, our minds are constantly creating, questioning, and connecting.
So, the next time a thought crosses your mind, don't let it remain just a thought. Give it a voice, give it a chance, and see where it takes you. Thank you, Vidur, for giving us a glimpse into the fascinating world of our minds.
After listening to those amazing speeches, it is time to lift our spirits with a form of art that moves every muscle and bone in our bodies. Can we give it up for the ever energetic dance troupe of CIRS?
That dance was beyond ordinary. The blend of beats and classical moves, along with that western sparkle, made the dance truly shine. Can we give another round of applause for the dance that has just pumped up all of our spirits for the talks to come?
Check. Get ready to look at personal growth in a whole new light. Our next speaker reminds us that life isn't about frantically searching for who we are, but rather creating who we want to become, piece by piece, choice by choice, and chance by chance. A passionate dancer, an 8th grader at CIRS, and someone who knows a thing or two about designing her own path. Please put your hands together and give a warm welcome to Pragya Thumar.
At the age of 6, when I was in grade 12, vice versa. At the age of 12, when I was in grade 6, it was this time when it felt like everybody around me had everything sorted out. It was as if they were living the perfect example of the perfect life. I want to be a doctor. I want to be an engineer. Oh, and I want to be a psychologist. All of us were very talented. But they knew what to do and I didn't even know who I was, or what I wanted to be, or whether what I was doing was right or not. I was so confused that at this point my friend had to come and tell me, "Oh Pragya, come on. See, all you have to do is just find yourself." And that one sentence, "just find yourself," had kept me pondering over every decision, every opportunity, and every challenge that came my way until right now. Because now I've understood that sometimes we don't just find ourselves, we design too. Boys and girls, I am Pragya Thumar. I study in grade 8, and apart from all that, I am the daughter of a fashion designer, which essentially made me inclined towards designing too. And one fine day, when I was thinking of a new idea for an outfit, I came across a completely different one. What if I could design myself? But wait, aren't I already doing that? Because unknowingly, every year I changed. My thoughts changed every second, my moods changed every day, my fears changed, my ambitions changed. And so did my interests as I grew up. Even though I understood happiness kept changing. The thing is, change is constant like a law of nature. Like when I was 5, I liked Barbies. When I was 7, I liked Doraemon. And now when I'm 14, I like Stranger Things. But sometimes change can also be scary. When an artist stands before a blank canvas, they don't expect perfection. They expect layers, mistake, revision, growth. Yet humans rarely grant themselves the same patience. We panic when we change. We panic when old identities stop fitting. As if transformation is the evidence that something has gone wrong. But maybe transformation was never the proof that you're lost. Maybe it's the proof that you're alive. I remember very well one of the first callings I had in school. It was just me and my best friend on the line, and everything seemed normal until she remarked, "Pragya, you know you've changed so much since you left. You aren't that joyful anymore. You've become so serious since you're there." And at that moment, my feelings were shattered. I felt like running to secrecy and bawling my fearful tears out because I had changed. And I did not like that. But later that night, my friends came up to me to console me. They put some sense into me by telling me that everyone changes in their life. And also that I wasn't the same person as when I was 5. And that's when I realized change wants us to think of it as a terrifying monster. But honestly, it might just be our bestest friend. The friend who wants the best of us. By pushing us out of our comfort zone, it teaches us more than what we learn in our everyday lessons. It gives us strength to face new challenges and overcome seemingly insurmountable situations. Change is the most uncomfortable beanbag in the entire library. You trust its appearance and take a seat only to discover that soon enough your entire back hurts. However, as time passed, you got used to the discomfort. You got used to the slight pain. And now, every time you get up from the beanbag, you emerge stronger. At school, a big program was coming up. And being the highly expressive dancer that I am, I got the center on the main stage. Our teacher was choreographing the dance, and during the first practice, we learned half of it. Packed with energy and enthusiastic steps that had been finalized, or so it seemed, until the next day, when ma'am presented us with new steps. All of us were frustrated. Whatever had been choreographed was fine, right? Why did she have to change it? But after another day of practice, the entire group understood that the change made the dance look better, perhaps even perfect. Now, once you accept that change designs us, another question naturally follows. If we're constantly changing, what exactly is changing us? Time is. Time changes the order of things, species, cultures, countries, empires. You name it. The wheel of time changes everything. It grows through the breadth of life, runs down the mountains of challenges, and travels through the sand of memories. It goes through absolutely everything. I blew the candles on my cake. You're 13, a tiny voice said to me. Excitement coursed through me. I was finally a teen. But gradually, as time passed, I felt a shift in me. I often felt overwhelmed and agitated, and I faced situations where unintentionally I hurted almost everyone. My father, being the deeply devoted spiritual man that he is, noticing the change in my behavior, handed a book to me. Initially, I wasn't exactly attracted to the book, but when I started reading it, something in me clicked. It felt as if all that which had been lost, I found again. So many of my questions had answers to them. This book helped me create a finer side of me. My agitation source, as I found, went back to the lack of gratitude. But this book taught me the importance of being thankful for all that I have. It was the period of great change when progress and improvement were on their peak. I changed because I was willing to change. People and incidents in our life can merely trigger the change. Thereafter, it is up to work on it. At any rate, change is an arduous, inward, and long journey. For worth it, it's never too late. Or in my case, too early to be whoever you want to be. So you see, we were never meant to find ourselves because we were never lost. We were meant to create ourselves, piece by piece, choice by choice, change by change. Every scar became a lesson. Every failure became a foundation. And every challenge became a chance to redesign. And now, boys and girls, here I am once again, Pragya Thumar, studying in grade 8, a dazzling dancer and the daughter of a fabulous fashion designer and a devoted man, signing off. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pragya. You truly reminded us that we are never lost and that we don't have to just find ourselves. We can design ourselves piece by piece, choice by choice, and change by change. Let's give another huge round of applause for Pragya Tumar.
We've all heard the famous saying, curiosity killed the cat. But is curiosity really something to fear? Is being curious truly dangerous? Or could it be the very spark that leads us to question, discover, and understand the world around us? Today, we're here to challenge this age-old saying and uncover what curiosity is truly capable of. Please join me in welcoming Saksham Khaitan from Grade 11 to the stage.
turn on. Check. Oh. See this coin here? Heads or tails? Choose a side and make sure you remember it. Ready? Okay. I'm sure that most of you are already thinking about other things right now. Maybe about the time, maybe about food, or maybe about that conspicuous present over there. It's kind of like having a bunch of background information in the back of your mind that just slowly fades away out of neglect. You may wonder about the time, but if you don't have a watch or a phone, you just forget about it. Maybe because it seems irrelevant, or maybe because it seems too much of an inconvenience to find out. But children don't seem to have this issue at all, do they? I mean, they just ask literally whatever comes to mind, which results in the most interesting, thought-provoking, and simultaneously the most mind-numbing questions. In fact, research shows that children ask anywhere between 70 to 300 questions daily. Based on this, I'm sure most parents and older siblings are aware of the why game. For some of you, that must mean nothing, but for the rest, the very name gives you PTSD. In this case, post-toddler stress disorder. I myself have been a victim to this game multiple times because of my cousin brother, Ayan. For those of you who are confused, don't worry, I'll explain. Basically, it starts when you're talking to someone, and no matter your response, they just keep asking you more and more questions. And it gets to a point where the questions are so absurd that you yourself don't know the answer. You could end up with questions like, if plants are green because of chlorophyll, why is chlorophyll green? And why doesn't the sun ever run out of gas if it's always on? And why does SRH never seem to win? It's been 10 years. Come on, man. When the initial conversation was just about sports and nature. So, guess who asked me all these questions? Him. Now, it makes sense why people stopped asking why or what whenever they felt like it. So, I mean, imagine if grown adults acted like this. People are growing this habit for the better, right? What happens when you stop asking questions in social situations? Usually make assumptions, right? You see a cute little dog in the park and assume that's the sweetest little thing ever. Little do you know that that thing is actually Satan incarnate whenever it sees a squirrel. Now, that's a pretty harmless example, unless you're a squirrel. But these preconceived notions and assumptions form biases, and these biases may devolve into prejudice and stereotypes. In other words, the literal driving force of social evils. Questions open doors to ambiguity, uncertainty, and most importantly, they question and challenge your current beliefs. People tend to not like this very much. In fact, a survey shows that 2 out of 3 people will just believe any statistic they read. I mean, I couldn't imagine just blindly believing a headline without dwelling on it or questioning it at all. I mean, moving on. As the article says, people tend to trust black and white quantitative data that leaves no room for exceptions or ambiguity. A straight answer, a yes or no, a to be or not to be. But the real world is more complicated and nuanced than that. It isn't black and white. It is a mix of 3 different primary colors for us humans, 2 for dogs, and 16 for the humble mantis shrimp. I believe this is more and more important to understand in the modern world with so much misinformation, rampant AI use, and hate speech, and purposely misleading wording in a system where even literacy isn't provided to the common person. When you are being spoon-fed information and opinions that have been specifically catered to you through social media, asking why just seems unnecessary. Why would you consider that you may be wrong if you're surrounded by people with the exact same belief system? Why would you try to verify sources if the majority of information online has been generated and regurgitated by AI? Why would you care about suffering if you thought that there was nothing you could do about it? When I was around 13 to 14 years old, I became very interested in morality, which is a very fancy way of saying that I did absolutely nothing for hours on end, but thinking about small, meaningless interactions and events.
Even considering the amount of sleep I lost to this habit, I'm grateful that I learned how to just sit by myself and think, trying to avoid personal biases and considering all viewpoints. Now, as a side note, because I feel like things are getting too serious, I want to mention how this came to be. Like anyone stuck in quarantine, all I really had for entertainment were books and the internet, which is where I stumbled across video essays. Sometimes it's just more fun looking at other people's questions and their subsequent answers, like, which is stronger, glue or tape? Or, why are some people left-handed? Or, what are those squiggly things in my eyes? Yes, I am bringing up TED Ed in a TED Ed event. My level of creativity is unparalleled. Nobody could have thought of this before. Oh my God. Anyway, this approach is risky and it can take you to some weird places. Interesting, but still weird. Now, I digress. There's a saying, why is causation? What is the target? And how is the procedure? Rewording the last sentence might help, considering that I lied, and it's not a popularly used saying at all, and something I just came up with. What I mean to say is that you must know why you are doing something, what you intend to do, and how you should go about doing it. No matter what you are doing in your daily life, these three questions form the very basis of it. If even one of them is missing, then your task is left incomplete, whether that be by lack of purpose, lack of caution, or lack of initiative. No matter how wise or enlightened a person may be, they will always have more to learn, more to explore, more to understand, more to question. The endless times that a child has asked why, and the endless times that the answer doesn't suffice, shows us that we may not know everything, may not even be close, but we will never stop asking why, for that is the most human thing to do. Now, on a finishing note, I'd like to answer a question that I hope at least a few of you have asked yourself. What's inside the box? Seems to be our old friend, the coin. Heads or tails, I asked you to choose. As for which is true, I have bad news, for I have forgotten. Please do not give me a bruise. Thank you.
Perhaps the most important lesson today is that the unknown is not something to shy away from. It is an invitation to look closer, think deeper, and venture beyond what we already know. In a world full of unanswered questions, the ones willing to ask them are the ones who uncover something new. Thank you, Saksham, for giving us a new perspective on something as simple and as powerful as wanting to know more.
As we continue with this wonderful journey, let us appreciate the ones who have worked tirelessly for the last few months to bring the voice inside their heads to the stage.
We would like to invite Srimati Shanti Krishnamurthy to give out the certificates. The speakers are requested to come forward in the order in which their names are called. Gargi Sharma, Adya Tulsian, Lok Vishwaveda, Yutika Rathi, Disha Bhimani, Vidur Vaibhav, Pragya Thumar, and Saksham Khaitan.
Thank you, ma'am, for honoring the speakers. To all the excited hearts here, we will disperse for a short break, but be ready to return as we have the final 6 speakers of the day remaining. Until then, thank you.
Welcome back to TED Ed at CIRS 4.0. Now, to get us back on track for the event, we have the Western Music Band to uplift our heart with the beats of their instrument. Can we have a huge round of applause for the band?
Look at the stars, look how they shine for you, and all the things you do. They were all yellow. I came along, I wrote a song for you. Oh, what a thing to do. It was called yellow. So then I took my time. Oh, what a thing to have done. And it was all yellow. Your skin, oh yeah, your skin and bones turn into something beautiful. You know I need your soul. You know I need your soul. I'd rather cross for you. Oh, what a thing to do. 'Cause you're all yellow. I drew a line. I drew a line for you. Oh, what a thing to do. 'Cause it was all yellow. Your skin, oh yeah, your skin and bones turn into something beautiful. You know, for you I bleed myself dry. For you I bleed myself dry. It's true. Look how they shine for you. Look how they shine for you. Look how they shine for. Look how they shine for you. Look how they shine for you. Look how they shine. Look
spectacular band performance. It was something that left us mesmerized with the soulful Western music. Thank you to the band once again.
Now, did you ever go through that phase of your life when you were just working, but could not see any success? But still, something inside you kept pushing you not to quit. So you showed up every single day. Suddenly, on a random day, your hard work pays off and you finally achieve what you have been working towards. Let us invite Arav Bharti on stage to describe his difficult cricket journey, which he claims has changed his life.
Check, check. It was 7 p.m. Ravi Shastri was on commentary. Rohit Sharma was calling the toss. And as usual, my father and I were parked in front of our televisions, not missing even a single ball. Every over, our heartbeats went up and down with the score, as if we were the ones batting out there. Honestly, I used to admire cricket as if it was $100 million lottery ticket. If India won, I would dance and jump up and down for the whole day. But if India lost, I would be as sad as if I had failed a test. That is how much cricket meant to me. That night, when India won, the 10-year-old me turned to my father and said, "Papa, one day I also want to play for India." I had no idea how big of a statement that was. But unlike other parents, my father didn't laugh at me. The very next morning, we went to search for a cricket academy. I got registered in one of the best academies in Nagpur. And the very next morning, I had to be on the field at 6:30 a.m. sharp. The night before that, I was so excited that I could not sleep at all. The next day when I went to the academy, I got to know that there were 3 levels of training. The most basic level, intermediate and advanced. And like every other new player, I also had to join the most basic level. Then, according to my progress, they would promote me to higher levels. The first day of my training, I was eagerly waiting to play with my brand new bat. I loved my bat so much that sometimes I would just stare at it for hours and hours without even getting bored. Finally, I was getting the opportunity to play with it for the very first time. But reality had other plans. A loud voice came from the back. "Bat nahi chuna. Today your job is only to collect the balls that the other batsmen hit and bring them back to the bowler." It was my coach. Across a field that felt enormous to a 10-year-old, I was running everywhere to collect the balls. Oof, what an epic start to my journey. My coach almost crushed my enthusiasm on the very first day of my training. But then I thought to myself that maybe this is how everyone starts their journey. One day, I will be batting there and the new ones would be picking up balls for me. So with that motivation and hope, I started picking balls with full enthusiasm. Except when 1 week passed and I was still out there collecting those same boring balls. I went to my dad frustrated, almost in tears, and said, "Papa, mujhe nahi jana wo academy. They do not let me bat at all. How is this fair?" My father thought for a moment, and then he asked me to wait for 1 more week. If nothing would have changed, he would himself pull me out of the academy. So the next week, I went back without much hope, dragging my kit bag as if it weighed twice it had the week before. Suddenly, on a random day, my coach asked me to pick up my bat. My eyes lit up. I said to myself, "Finally," and went running to put on my pads. I came back confident, ready to face his ball. My coach bowled me a slow underarm ball and I swung my bat with everything I had, as if I was trying to hit the ball out of Nagpur. As soon as as I got the satisfaction of hitting that ball so hard, the very next moment, my coach shouted at me, "Kya kar raha hai? You have to defend the ball." And from that day, I practiced the single most boring thing in cricket, defense. Just defense. Same bat, same stance, same ball rolling on the same spot, morning after morning after morning. I had never been this patient in my life. My interest in cricket was almost getting over. And as I was ready to walk away from it, something shifted. My coach started to teach me bowling. I thought to myself that if not batting, let me try bowling. Maybe I'll find my interest there. So I went to my coach with my chest up and said, "Coach, I want to do pace bowling. I want to become like Lasith Malinga." With the amount of enthusiasm with which I went to my coach, with the same amount of embarrassment, I had to go back. My coach replied, "Huh, pace bowling, go look yourself at the mirror. Pace bowlers need muscles, not bones." After practicing that boring defense for 3 whole months, I slowly started to learn how to spin the ball. And I realized that spinning the ball and taking wickets by flight and turn became more interesting than doing that boring defense. Around then, an inter-club tournament began. It was open only to the players from the advanced batch. And naturally, I was not one of them. I was still stuck in one of those kutty basic batches, standing on the sidelines, dreaming to play in that team one day. So, with that hope and motivation, I picked up my ball and I went to the nets to practice my line and length. But that day, something strange happened. One of the main bowlers from the advanced team of our academy fell sick, and they had their match in the next 10 minutes. Their coach was extremely tense. He was pacing around the boundary lines, checking his watch again and again, waiting for that player. That is when he saw me bowling in one of the nets. As I mentioned, he was the head coach of the entire academy. If his players made even a single mistake, he would punish them till they nearly fainted. So I went running towards him and said, "Haan, sir." He asked me in a firm voice, "Match khelega?" And I had to reply, "Haan, sir, kheluga na." That day, I unexpectedly took 5 wickets, and our team won because of me. I was directly promoted to the advanced level of the academy, in which only 12 players were trained under the head coach of the entire academy. My training became extremely intense. Now I had to be on the field at 5 a.m. sharp, which meant that my father would be driving me through empty roads at 4:30 in the morning. My mother would wake up even earlier just to press warm milk and banana in my hands. That was my schedule for the next 1.5 years of my journey, until I joined CIRS in 2023. When I talk about waking up at 4 a.m. in the morning, it might sound really cool and fun. But honestly, for a 10-year-old like me, it was not. Some mornings, it would be freezing cold when I would want nothing other than my cozy blanket. Some mornings, it would be raining heavily when all my friends would be expecting a school holiday. Some mornings, I would be half dead because the night before that, I was in a party. But I had to leave all that comfort and show up every single day. Even if it meant to defend those slow underarm balls. Even if it meant to collect the same boring balls every day. Today, people often ask me, "How do you run so well? You are so skinny. How do you have so much stamina?" And my answer to them never changes. It is all about discipline and consistency. It doesn't matter if you are able to see the results of that discipline today or not. Trust me, one day you will see it. It might take a week, it might take a month, or sometimes even a year. But the interesting part is to stay consistent and show up every single day. Often, we consider discipline as a necessary evil on the path to our success. But little do we realize that discipline is a service which we do to our own potential in the path of perfection. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Arav. You reminded us that success doesn't always arrive when we expect it to. Sometimes it comes after countless ordinary days of showing up, trying again, and refusing to quit. Your journey was a great reminder that the days when nothing seemed to be happening may actually be the days that matter the most. Let's give Arav Bhartia another huge round of applause.
We often dream of exploring the world, but how well do we know our own incredible country? Our next speaker has experienced India's diversity firsthand, not just by traveling across it, but by calling different parts of the nation home. Please join me in welcoming Kavya Arun Prasad from grade 9 to the stage.
Imagine this hourglass represents my life. Wait, I'm not sure you guys can see it. Let's bring the bigger one out. That's better. This hourglass represents my life. What generally happens when we flip the hourglass? Sand starts trickling down as time passes and begins to settle. When it settles, however, it gets flipped, restarted, just like my life whenever we shifted cities. Why? Well, moving cities wasn't a once in a lifetime event. It was just Monday. My father worked as an Indian Forest Service officer, and his job required us to be on the move constantly. It became a running joke in my family. Really, by the time 6-year-old me had finally learned the spelling of Rajangaon, my parents had already booked the tickets to Raipur. When most people are asked to imagine the words culture shock, they imagine crossing the seas in an expensive plane, like someone from Mumbai going all the way to Paris, or someone from Chennai traveling to London with foreign faces, harsh weather, and incomprehensible languages. I'm here to argue that sometimes moving interstate feels a lot harder than moving abroad. When you cross time zones, people expect you to stumble. They let you off, laugh with you, and extend their help with understanding, not minding your terrible accent and cluelessness about traditions. Moving interstate, pressure builds up instantly. It's like they acknowledge your unfamiliarity, but not your struggles. It's kind of like saying jumping off a cliff in two different places doesn't lead to the same results. There is a phrase in our social science textbooks, which I'm sure all of you would have read at least one point in your lives, that India has unity in diversity. Bharat at times feels like a continent stuffed inside a country where languages and cultures change with every state we step foot into. It's not a sudden shift either, where both cultures mix into a broth, producing traditional collisions and dialects I'm sure none of us would have even heard the name of. For the thousandth time, guys, Marathi is not the same as Gujarati. I know this because I fall into this mixture as well. Born in Chennai, I have spent 14 years of my life in 4 different cities: Bijapur, Rajangaon, Raipur, and the city of dreams, Mumbai. You may have a question hearing the names of all these cities. Kavya, all of them have something in common. All of them seem to speak Hindi. How come you struggle to fit in? But honestly speaking, guys, the only time that I have seen my mother tongue, Tamil, and Hindi mix well would have been in the movie Chennai Express. And I struggled hard. But out of all of us, my mother struggled the hardest. Going all the way from Chennai, the capital city of Tamil Nadu, to Bijapur, a rural city with almost no connections, balancing both a toddler and a baby on her hip while not knowing to utter a single word of Hindi. Placing the sofa in the living room was less of a verbal exchange and more of awkward smiles and a lot of hand gestures. Living in this constant state of transition, insecurity can creep in at times, particularly when you're young, and life's simplest problems sound like a catastrophe for Barbie loving you. You begin to question your skill, and life's ultimate test of survival, birthday parties. God forbid they play Kala Chashma, because my retreat to the corner of the room would have been instant, as I tried not to stutter over the then unfamiliar lyrics and frown at the sudden chaos. Being in the corner of that room, I would not only feel left out, but was also left with a question which had me confused for half my life. Where did I truly belong? School didn't leave me any better. In fact, it only seemed to make it worse. With my out of practice Tamil and the Hindi of a toddler, I spoke mostly in English, which I thought would earn me respect, but instead earned me nicknames. Names like Angrezi, Firangi, and AI robot followed me wherever I went. It took me years to realize that my feelings weren't rare. In fact, over 4.14 million people in India alone have migrated interstate for work and life. To put that into another perspective, the entire country of Armenia has a population of only around 3 million. Let that sink in. We have more than an entire country's worth of people mixed in this beautiful land that we call Bharat. In fact, our first Prime Minister, Jawaharlal Nehruji himself, had once quoted, "I have become a queer mixture of the East and West, out of place everywhere, at home nowhere." Perhaps my thoughts and approach to life are more akin to what is called Western than Eastern. But India clings to me, as she does all her children in innumerable ways. And this quote had me thinking, if someone as formidable as our Prime Minister could imagine these feelings, why couldn't we, the citizens of Bharat? And when these many people move around, cultures are bound to collide. Sometimes beautifully, and sometimes catastrophically. A few years ago, on the streets of Raipur, I even witnessed the invention of something tragic. Maggi dosa. Let me be clear on the record, guys. That is not a culinary masterpiece. That is a targeted crime against humanity. Moving past that, my perspective only widened when I shifted schools yet again. I came here, CIRS, and I was truly mind blown over the unity that I felt. People from the north, south, east, and west walked side by side in peace with no discrimination. Places were not bragged about or placed on a pedestal, they were discussed and spoken of in awe. We traded our favorite sunsets, places, nicknames, dishes, different corners of the country mingling into one. And these moments brought back memories of how my parents used to host parties simply because their friends wanted to taste my mom's dosa. Or that one day in school where all my classmates gathered around me to hear the story of how I once shaved my head. Or laughter in 3 different languages. Let's bring that phrase back for a moment. That India has unity in diversity. We love to brag about it, not only in our patriotic speeches, but in songs and celebrations. But where does our pride lie when a struggling Tamil child sits in the seat next to us? Where does our pride lie when the couple a few seats ahead in the restaurant can't understand what the waiter wants? Where does our pride lie when helping is a choice rarely chosen? Culture shock is not about how far you travel on the map, but about crossing that line between your comfort zone and an environment unfamiliar to you. I used to think that adapting in these regions meant that I had to become somewhat of a chameleon, learning how to change my colors, blend in, and disappear so that I won't stand out. But I soon learned that that was not the case. That just because I was born and coddled by the warmth of the South, I could not enjoy the rains of the North. That my struggle with Hindi ended in bursts of laughter, and my struggle with Tamil in slips of in giggles and confusion. That there really was space for more than one culture. Because at the end of the day, the true beauty of India really does lie in her diversity and our actions to bond over our differences. So here's to a changing Hindustan, a land where its unity truly is in its diversity. Hari Om and Namaste.
Check, check, check. Maybe what we take away today is that a place truly comes alive only when we step into its stories, its culture, and the lives of the people who call it home. The strength of our country does not lie in its variety, but in the way every region adds its own color to a shared identity. Thank you, Kavya, for helping us see India through a journey lived, not just observed.
Our next speaker is going to take us through something almost every one of us has experienced, but rarely stop to think about it. The pressure of constantly comparing ourselves to everyone around us. Please put your hands together for Kalwa Harshita as she takes the stage to remind us that sometimes the greatest competition is not you versus others, but you versus you.
Do you ever freak out when others seem to do better than you? Well, you're not alone. Everyone nowadays compares themselves with somebody. For some, it might be marks. Somebody wants to speak better, and others may want to become faster. Ultimately, it's all about becoming the best. And somewhere along the way, we stop looking at our journey just to watch how others do it. It's a strange thing about comparison. One look at someone else's marks, someone else's timing, and that one expectation. And suddenly, our entire self confidence starts depending on how well others are doing. I learned this lesson through a 2 marker in my 8th grade exam. Yeah, a silly 2 marker. Wait, let me give you a clearer picture. Imagine your mind like a clear glass of water. When it stays peaceful, you think properly, study, and focus. Honestly, that's how I thought I was. Well, you see, it was just an 8th grade math paper, you might say. But at that moment, it felt huge. Because sometimes it's not about the size of a problem, but the pressure attached to it. Another insight about me, I was never a student who aced every exam. Subjects and I just survived each other. But math, it hit different because it was the only subject I believed I could succeed in. And that's how me scoring well made me feel smart. And if I didn't, I felt like a disappointment. So, on the day of my 8th grade exam, I entered the hall saying, I can do it. The paper started off well. I was writing comfortably and everything seemed under control. Until I reached to the 2 marker. Suddenly, I wasn't even writing a math problem, but was fighting with my own mind. The numbers were right there, but my brain just refused to connect them. Well, now, add fear. And then I stared at it once, twice, thrice, as if staring harder would magically produce the answer. It didn't. And then there I had pressure. So I thought, okay, let's leave it for later. I went on with my entire paper in a hurry, had 1 hour left, then came back to the question. And that's exactly where the entire problem started. Not because it was impossible, but because fear had already entered my mind. All those what ifs started pouring in. What if I don't know this? What if everyone else does? What if I disappoint my parents? And then I made the biggest mistake possible. I looked around. Yes, looking around was the biggest mistake. Everyone was writing as if they were in some fast forwarded scene. Pages flipping, pens writing, and confidence everywhere. And me? I just unlocked a whole new level of panic. At that moment, that wasn't failure. That was me climbing up the ladder of fall. Fear, pressure, doubt, panic, and comparison. I overthought simple questions and doubted answers I already knew. At that moment, water became muddy, and so did my mind. Muddy water cannot reflect clearly, and that's exactly what happened to my abilities. And the worst part, I became so anxious that I even forgot to recheck my paper. And by the time I handed it in, I was literally holding back tears. And then the results came. Harshita, 57 out of 80. Wait, what? 57 out of 80? My brain froze. I still remember praying to Lord Ganesha if he could just switch the numbers around. At that moment, I was scared. Not because of the marks alone, but because what I believed those marks meant about me. Well, I remember going around thinking only one thing. How did I let myself down in the only subject I believed I could succeed in? And that fear stayed for a long time. Just because I couldn't realize sooner that with that paper, I handed in something way more important to me. Trust in myself. And every paper after that felt heavier. Even when I knew the answers, I doubted them. Even when I prepared well, I panicked. The water became muddy again and again and again. And I think many students can relate to this. Somewhere along the way, we stop doing things to learn, but start doing them just to prove ourselves. Everywhere around us, comparison exists. Sports, toppers list, universities, and what not. But what if instead we paused? Paused because life is much bigger than just a running race. Wait up. Confession incoming. And fingers crossed, I'm not the only person. Sometimes I feel a tint of joy and happiness when I see others losing. It's not about me winning, but others losing. Don't get me wrong. I'm not Cruella here, but just a misled kid. Germans even have a word for it. Schadenfreude. Well, but then, about time, I understood one thing. Every step we take and every decision we make, it's ours. And ours alone. Not everyone who we compare ourselves with. That one shift changes everything. The real question isn't, am I better than them? It's, am I better who I used to be? Because self-growth is independent. Well, but then you might say, without competition, how would you know where you stand? I agree. Healthy competition does motivate us. It can inspire us to improve. But there's a huge difference between competition and comparison. Competition says, I want to become better for myself and my growth. But comparison says, I'm only valuable if I'm better than the others. And that mindset is dangerous. Because imagine, if your entire self-worth starts depending on someone else, ask yourself, what is your identity as an individual? And that's when you realize. Maybe yesterday you were afraid to ask a question in class, but today you gathered up the courage and asked one. That is progress. Maybe last year you failed at something, but this time you got back up and did it again. That is progress. Maybe your marks aren't good enough yet, but your consistency has improved. That is also progress. And that's when I found the ladder of rise. Self-growth, reflection, innovation, and confidence. And that's when I realized that 13-year-old me genuinely believed that her life had ended in a 57 out of 80. At the age of 13, honestly, she deserves an Oscar award. That paper did not define my future, but the lesson it taught did stay. At the end of the day, there might always be someone more successful, more talented, and more experienced. And chasing all of them is a race you might never finish. But every day morning, life gives you one opponent worth facing. Every time you stare into the mirror, remember, the person staring back at you doesn't want to be compared with anyone or everyone, but he does want to be compared with one. You. He is your challenge. Beat who you were yesterday, because the greatest competition isn't you versus the others. It's you versus you. Thank you and Hari Om.
That was truly a powerful reminder that our journey is not defined by how far ahead someone else is, but by how far we have come ourselves. A big thank you to Harshita for reminding us that the most important competition we will ever face is the one with the person we see in the mirror. Let's give her another huge round of applause.
As we prepare for the last three speakers for the day, we shall have a small shadow performance based on William Shakespeare's 7 Ages of Life. This is a rewritten version by the very bard of CIRS, Ayush Srinath Bhashyam. It depicts the 7 stages of life that everyone goes through. Brace yourselves, audience, for the picture-perfect tableaus to come.
Check.
Good morrow, friends, unto this mortal stage. I am called Jax, and I roam a world that is not Arden only, but thine own. All that thou seest strut and fret and are mere players merely, and I'll show thee 7 great ages of a life, in picture still, that thou mayst find thy own face in the frame. Come, gather close, and let the candles dim, for what I show thee is not far from home. 'Tis very cradle, every chair, thine own. At first, the infant, mewling in the arms of one who loves it ere it hath a name. Behold how small a thing begins in the world. A page unwrit, a story yet to come. No crown, no title, and no debt as yet. Only the warmth of arms and one soft breath. Drawn newly into this great, strange, wide air. Hold, nurse, hold still. The picture is enough. No cry is needed where the eye can read. Look well upon this frame, for it was thine, and it was mine, and every soul that lives. Then comes the whining schoolboy, satchel slung, his shining face turned sullen toward the school, creeping like snail, unwillingly to learn. Mark how his feet resist and yet must go, how every muscle in that small frame argues against the pull of duty and the bell. For every dawn, some small unwilling march is asked for all of us, and still we go. Still we take up that satchel, though it's heavy, still we walk on, though slower than we'd wish. Freeze there, boy, let us look upon thy face, half sorrow and half secret stubborn joy. And then the lover, sighing like a furnace, his woeful ballad trembling in his hand. See how he does not close the little distance, how she, half turning, has not said yes. 'Tis the sweetest instant of a life, the breath before the answer, held forever, better perhaps the answer could ever be. For in this frame all futures still are possible. Hold there, let no one dare to move. Let the whole world stand still round these two. Then a soldier, bearded like the pard, quick in quarrel, jealous of his honor, seeking the bubble reputation even in the cannon's very mouth. Behold him strain against the wiser hand that knows what glory costs and what it's worth. See how the young man strains to be unleashed, and how the elder grip holds firm and knowing. Twixt fire and wisdom stands this trembling frame, and in that space a whole man's fate is written. And then the justice, in fair round belly lined, full of wise thoughts that answer nothing plain. Mark how the suppliant waits upon his word, and how that word forever hangs unspoken. Such is the weight of man that asks of wisdom, yet moves no swifter than the turning year. See how the finger raised and never falls. See how the kneeling man grows old with waiting. For wisdom, friends, is often as slow as this, and justice, though it's fair, is rarely quick. The sixth age shifts into the pantaloon, spectacles on nose and pouch on side. His youthful hose, now a world too wide. His manly voice turned thin and treble piped. See how he leans on youth for to keep his feet, and see how gently youth consents to bear him. There is no shame in this, though some may think it. Only the turning wheel that comes for all. The clothes remember what the man's forgotten, and the body keeps the ledger age has torn. Last scene of all that ends this strange history is second childishness and mere oblivion. Sans teeth, sans eyes, sans taste, sans everything. Yet look thou well upon this final frame. 'Tis not despair that sits within that chair, but rest, and one held hand in hand still. No garden now, no roses and no names, and yet, a hand is holding fast. Some things outlast the memory that made them. Some tenderness needs neither eyes nor words. And there thou hast it. 7 ages, seen not in their moving, but their moments held. For life is not the rush between the pictures, but every picture treasured as it stands. The infant's trust, the schoolboy's reluctant dawn, the lover's breath, the soldier's iron will, the justice's slow word, the pantaloon's soft leaning, the elder's rest within a faithful hand. 7 frames, and in between them, all the rest, the living, breathing rush that none can capture, the laughter and the losses in between, the ordinary days that no one paints. All the world's a stage, and thou art players. Go then and play thy part with open heart. Speak boldly, love well, and seek thy truest calling. And when the candles dim upon thy story, may those who watch thee say with grace, here was a life well lived, a frame well held, a player who knew well his time, his place. For this is life, and life itself is art.
That performance truly encapsulated the essence of the literary genius William Shakespeare. Thank you, friends, for bringing us the fantastic portrayal of the seven indispensable ages.
Check. You know that voice in your head that won't let anything go? The one that turns a 2-second awkward moment into a 3-week long crisis.
Our next speaker has figured out exactly what that voice is and why it's been playing with you this whole time. To understand that annoying voice inside our heads, we call upon Anoki Kankani.
Boys and girls, please give it up for her.
Check. Check, check. Check. Have you ever done something embarrassing and then spent the next 3 days thinking about it? Maybe you answered a question wrong. Maybe you waved at someone only to realize that they weren't waving at you. And then suddenly, your brain decides that this is no longer a normal moment. It's a headline, a breaking news story, something that apparently needs to be replayed, remembered, and analyzed forever. Meanwhile, everybody else forgot it by lunch. But for some reason, my brain just couldn't. It kept replaying it again and again and again, like it was something important. And that's when I realized something strange. I think that there's a newspaper running inside my head. Hold on. Not a real one, of course. A completely imaginary one. I like to call it the daily drama. Run by someone who I can only describe as the man, the myth, and the mistake herself. Rita Skeeter. The kind of journalist who was never trusted with normal news, so she took over my life instead. And unfortunately for me, she takes her job very seriously.
The thing about this newspaper is that it absolutely has no journalistic standards. None. Zero. If I answer one question wrong in class, the next morning's headline will be Student faces public intellectual collapse. If I trip on the staircase, local girl forgets how legs work. And if a friend takes a little too long to reply to my messages, friendship believed to be in critical condition. And the sources? No clue, bro. Somehow, I believed it. Not because it was accurate, but because it was loud. And loud things feel important, don't they? Especially when they come from inside your own head. I don't think that this newspaper popped out of nowhere. I think we live in a world that quietly encourages it. Everywhere we look, we are told to have that main character energy. And honestly, I like that idea. I like the version that tells people to stop shrinking themselves. The version that says your life matters. The version that tells people you are allowed to take up space. And that's not the problem. The problem starts when your confidence turns into a never-ending live performance. Because once you're the main character, it's very easy to imagine an audience. And once you imagine an audience, you start acting for them. You start seeing yourself through imaginary eyes. And suddenly, everything feels bigger than it really is. In a boarding school, we are always surrounded by people. There's always someone in the dorm, someone in the corridor, someone in class. And after a while, your brain starts treating ordinary events like ordinary moments like events that need to be written down in the pages of history. I can walk into the dining hall and feel that I've made an entrance. I haven't. I have just arrived there for food. But somehow, my brain reacts like the cameras are rolling. The teacher asks a question. I know the answer. I start to raise my hand up. But then, my brain decides that this is the perfect moment to start an investigation. What if I'm wrong? What if everybody stares at me? What if this becomes my entire reputation? Meanwhile, the teacher just wanted answers, not an investigation. And while I'm busy imagining my academic downfall, someone else answers. And then I spend the next 5 minutes thinking, I literally knew that. The strange thing is that this does not happen only in classrooms. It follows me everywhere, especially when it comes to people. Because once you're used to imagining an audience, you start imagining their reactions too. You imagine disappointment before it happens, judgment before it happens, rejection before it happens. And after a while, it starts making decisions for you. And for me, it appeared in one tiny word. Y-E-S. Yes. Such a small word, isn't it? One syllable, 3 letters. But somehow, it had an absolute unbelievable ability to make my life a disaster. A friend asks for help. My brain says no. My timetable says no. My sleep schedule says no. But somehow, my brain just says yes. At first, it feels harmless. Just one small yes. And then another, and another, and yet another. Which brings me to this balloon. Every time I said yes, when I really wanted to say no, I felt a little more pressure being added. Someone asked for a favor? Sure. Hey, can you help me out? Okay. Can you teach this to me? Sure. Can you do this for me too? I'm sorry, I don't think that... Anoki, you are being selfish again. If you don't do this for me, I will not talk to you. Sorry, I'll do it. The funny thing is that people call this being nice. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it really isn't. Sometimes it's just fear wearing a very polite outfit. The fear of rejection. The fear of seeming rude, the fear of being left out, the fear of losing friends. And once your brain is used to imagining an audience, approval starts feeling like a reward. So, you keep collecting yeses. You keep collecting applauses. You keep collecting pressure. Until one day you realize that you spent so much time trying to be the version that others wanted that you forgot you existed too. And that's when the pressure really hits. Because all your life, you've tried avoiding disappointing everybody else, but at the end of the day, you end up disappointing yourself. One day, I had a thought. What if everybody else has their own newspapers too? What if the people I am worried are judging me are actually busy worrying about themselves? Maybe while I'm thinking, everybody saw me trip, they are thinking about their own bigger problems. Maybe while I'm replaying something that I read 3 weeks ago, they are replaying something that they read 3 weeks ago. Because nobody is nearly paying that much attention to us as we think they are. Because honestly, everybody is just busy being the main character of their own story. And honestly, that idea was weirdly comforting because it meant that the pressure wasn't coming from everybody else. Most of it was coming from stories. Stories my newspaper kept publishing. Stories that sounded true simply because I had read them so many times. The newspaper still exists. The editor still works overtime. She thinks tripping down the staircase deserves national attention. And she still treats every awkward moment like a breaking news. The difference is that now I trust her a little less because I have realized something. The journalist in my head does not report reality. She reports only fear. And that makes her a terrible journalist. She exaggerates. She jumps into conclusion. She loves drama. And she has never met a fact which she couldn't dramatically misunderstand. So maybe the goal is to not stop being the main character. Maybe the goal is to stop acting for an audience that was never really there. And to all the Rita Skeeters out there, maybe it's time for you to put your quills down and take a break. Because when you finally get rid of that Rita Skeeter and you finally stop imagining an invisible audience, will be the moment that you actually start living for yourself. And if Rita Skeeter wants to write an article about that, she can. And I probably won't read it. Thank you.
Thank you, Anoki, for that brilliant speech. We hope that after your speech, we all start ignoring the Rita Skeeter inside our heads, stop overthinking every little moment, and start living.
Thank you for giving us such a unique perspective on our daily experiences. Can we have one more round of applause for Anoki?
What connects a promise to reach the moon? Impossible 5,000 to 1 knot and a tiny blue dot in blue space?
Today's speaker takes us on a journey through human bravery, showing that the greatest moments don't come from safe choices, but from the courage to try when nothing is guaranteed.
Get ready to stop letting fear make your decisions, embrace the unknown, and discover what happens when you finally dare. And for that, let us welcome Shrey Kotari.
Check.
Good evening, Homo sapiens. How is life treating you? At least for me, it's crazy. You know, mummy says life is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you are gonna get. And definitely, you weren't expecting a chef today, right? But what else is there to talk about it? We come, we see, we cook. That's our life. Anyways, what's the task for today? So, Mr. Critics, gonna come down to the restaurant and try out a new dish. And I have to make a new dish for them to impress them so that I can get some stars. Wow. But I can't keep up anymore. Not because it has failed, because it is unfinished. And wait, don't blame me for this. We are all in this together. As we throw away ideas, plans, and even people before they have the time to develop. I added everything to my new dish. A pinch of curiosity, a boatload of imagination, of course effort, and a hell lot of time. What did I do? Why did I act like all of you? Why did I judge my mess before it looked like something swadished? If humanity had rejected every single idea at this stage, nothing could have ever been possible. Now, how many things do you call impossible in your life? Because they are simply unfinished. And this is where daring begins. It does not mean being brave, being strong. It means that you embrace the truth, you dare, and you keep moving. So, why? Why do human beings willingly risk failure, rejection, embarrassment, and sometimes even death for something uncertain? Human beings at a core are animals. I mean, we have the same flesh, driven by the same instincts, fearing the same fears. But there is one thing that separates us from them. We dream and we dare to do what we want to. Now, imagine courage. What do you imagine? Do you imagine people who get their names into history textbooks like soldiers, athletes, scientists? But I don't feel courage is reserved for only them. Why? Why should it be reserved for only extraordinary people? It can be anyone. So let's take few examples. In 1924, George Mallory wrote a letter to his wife Ruth. After weeks on expedition, he was exhausted. Success was highly unlikely. It is 50 to 1 against us, he wrote. In simple terms, he said the odds were terrible, but he would still try. Mallory did not ignore danger. He understood it clearly, but he simply refused to let the numbers make the choice for him. A year earlier, a newspaper reported his answer to the question, "Why climb Everest?" Because it's there? What a crazy answer! But it became famous because it was so direct. In his writing, Mallory gave a fuller reason. What we get from this adventure is sheer joy, not fame, not flag, but the feeling of being fully alive. And I feel that's what truly matters in life, the feeling of being fully alive. Most of our acts may be not so dramatic. It might be a difficult conversation, a second attempt, or a step you take that no one understands. Sometimes you take that step because the person you could become is somewhere beyond the person you are now. Sometimes the odds are not 50 to 1. Sometimes they are 5,000 to 1. In 2015-16 Premier League season, some bookmakers offered Leicester City and odds as big as 5,000 to 1 to win the title. People laughed at it and they called it impossible. But then Leicester won. The odds were not wrong. They described what was likely. But likely is not the same as decided. Probability can measure a chance. It cannot make a choice for you. And this is what you humans do unusually well. You try even when things seem impossible. You try even when situations are uncertain or the odds are terrible. And that's why you don't find reasonable people like you on top of the mountain, because extraordinary achievements require unreasonable passion, extreme risk taking, and rejection of safe and conventional thinking. Now, let me share with you something personal. When I was in 8th grade, during our annual sports meet, I had worked very hard for swimming. Every day I used to do my workouts and make sure I didn't miss a single day of practice. But then destiny had different plans for me. Just before the competition, I fell sick. After all that grind, all that effort, I couldn't compete the way I'd hoped. And I called it impossible. To be honest, I lost in front of someone sitting in this crowd. And that made me think something really very important. If I can lose in such a small environment, how am I ever going to be successful in the world outside? But as you know, not every act of daring is public. And that's when something quietly happened inside me. I lost. I was extremely embarrassed because I had hoped from myself a lot. And the people around me were also expecting me to perform. But that is how life is. And what one can do is just accept it and move on. I chose to continue. I gave in all the more effort, I continued the grind. And finally, in 9th grade, I won the individual championship in aquatics. I dared to continue, I dared to win, and I did win. That was self-realization. I didn't go around crying, cribbing, or regretting about what had happened. I just thought about it. What is the talent life had given me? And what can I build from it? As I said earlier, your act of daring may not look so impressive, but believe me, it may change your life. Our example can be portrayed from a story. In 1990, Voyager 1 turned its camera towards home, around 6 billion kilometers from the sun. Earth looked like a tiny pale blue dot. Carl Sagan saw that image and wrote, "That's here, that's home, that's us." Every war, celebration, victory, and every person you love on that tiny blue dot. Yet sometimes you act as if one embarrassing mistake can be seen from space. No, it cannot. Your problem still matters, but your problem is not the whole universe. From Neptune, no one can see who laughed at you, the moments you felt foolish, or the mistakes you thought will follow you forever. Sometimes being small is not an insult, it is freedom. You are too small to impress the whole universe, and your duration is too short that you can keep worrying about another person's opinion. Yet, on this tiny blue dot, one kind word, one brave choice, one second attempt can become another person's whole world. So dare and give it all. At the beginning, I said I was a chef and I was going to make a new recipe. But humanity was never given with a finished recipe. We always worked with what we had in our hand: curiosity, failure, and time. And of course, the courage to continue when you didn't even know the result. The idea in your mind may fail, it may change, it may never reach the moon, it may never win a league. It does not have to. The point is not to become history. The point is to be fully alive while you're here. Just like the future, the recipe is also unfinished. And now it's your turn to make the recipe. So give it all. Make it delicious. And if sometime you think it lacks some spice, just feel free to add the ABCDs: adventurous, brave, courage, and daringness. Now the kitchen is yours to handle. Use every ingredient.
but embrace the person inside you. Because you are the Homo sapiens, the animals who became God, the animals who turned their homes from caves to skyscrapers, the animals who had the daringness to change unfinished recipes into a new masterpiece. So, to all the chefs who are going to walk this earth, now I walk away. But now, the question is, will you? Thank you.
Thank you, Shrey, for sharing such an inspiring story with us.
From the mountains we climb to the quiet moments of self realization within us, history isn't written by certainty of success, but by the courage to try anyway. The choice is yours.
Go out there, embrace the unknown, and write your own story. Thank you once again, Shrey.
What happens when your greatest fear becomes your greatest teacher? Today, Avika explores the strange relationship between fear, death, and what it truly means to live. Let us welcome her to the stage.
When I was little, I used to be deathly scared of Santa Claus. That fluffy white beard held monsters, and those pearly whites, nothing short of menacing. Look, I even refused to go near the character. But then, as I grew older, my fears too evolved, from the infamous fear of judgment to even a short stint of claustrophobia. I truly thought I had gone through it all. That was until about 6 to 7 months ago, when I discovered my deepest, darkest fear. It happened on an exciting Sunday and an otherwise uneventful vacation. My friend had been begging me to go karting. And being the generous person I am, I had said yes because, what's the worst that could have happened, right? So, anyways, we walked up to the counter, we bought ourselves some tickets, and I got into my teensy tiny car. But as soon as I pressed the accelerator, my soul left my body. Driving at the rapid speed of 5 kmph was the most horrifying thing that had ever happened to me. I was convinced I was about to crash and go up in flames. And that day, I realized 2 things. Number 1, I am never go-karting again. And number 2, I am so terrified of death. Now, this word death itself has so many negative connotations that it's like you've been primed to instantly feel fear and despair and hopelessness the moment you hear the word. But I need you to go past this primal instinct and truly understand why we fear death. Because fear and death form a very dangerous combination. As Edgar Allan Poe once said, the most powerful emotion is fear, and the greatest fear is the fear of the unknown. And death is anything but familiar. It could strike at any time. You don't know how it'll take you. You're just completely blind in the face of death. Death is the greatest unknown, and therefore the worst fear of them all. But personally, that's not really why I feared death. For me, it was more about the fear of losing everything. You see, this is my life. These are all the people I love and the connections I've built and my hopes and dreams for the future. But wait, what's this thing? That is the impending nightmare that threatened to ruin everything. The result of my little go-karting incident was a fear that had settled so deep into my bones that it quite literally took over my life. I couldn't sleep, I couldn't work, I couldn't eat without this incessant fear just ripping me to shreds. And I could feel this threat constantly looming over me. And at any given point in time, I would almost always be thinking, what if I die right now? What happens when I'm gone? And what happens when he strikes? Nothing? Well, nothing except the fact that a wonderful person would be stolen from this world and you all would be in absolute shambles. Jokes aside, this really, really scared me because everything I had built for 16 long years was at the mercy of something I couldn't even control. And then I was just drowning in anxiety over this amazing life I was going to lose, constantly worrying about death coming to my doorstep. And I didn't want to go at all. I mean, who does? But you know, death wasn't at my doorstep. This guy was. And while I was wasting my time worrying about death, people, normal people, were actually living. And I don't mean the existing kind of living. I mean actually living. Because me, being the smart individual I am, as soon as I realized that I absolutely loved my life and I found it oh so perfect, I immediately decided to stop living it. And that's when I realized this entire time, the answer had been right in front of me. My fear could be my greatest tool. Think about it. The entirety of my amazing existence, all these people I love, the relationships I'd built, and all my big hopes and dreams and ambitions, my entire world basically, was constantly under threat. And like my fear asserted, death could strike at any moment. And all of it would just be gone. And that very fear made me realize how fleeting all of this is. And because it is fleeting, how important it is that I consume and cherish every single second of it I can. Because the only way to stop fearing death is to live. And funnily enough, the only fear that forces us to live is the fear of death. And, you know, our fears are completely holding us back from living. In fact, life with fear looks something like this. So, the only way to start living life perfectly, fully, deeply, is to stop fearing everything. I mean, it'll be hard at first, trust me. I know. But I want you to just try and approach your fear. And I swear to you, once you expose yourself to it just enough, your fear will disappear like it never even existed. Like if you fear the ocean, just go scuba diving. Maybe you'll discover an entirely new world that you never even knew about. Or if you fear the stage, literally get on it. It's not that bad. But if you choose not to, then your voice, your ideas, which the world could very much use, will forever go unheard. Or if you fear rabbits, just hold them, because maybe you might just make some new furry friends. Because you see, our fears are just holding us back from living. And if you give in to your fears, then you are literally, outrightly refusing to live. And that way, you will die long before death arrives, long before you take your last breath, by simply never having the courage to live. And that brings me to my second request. But this one's a little counterintuitive. I want you all to fear just one thing. And I'm pretty sure you've all already guessed what it is. I want you to fear death. I want you to fear it as much as you can. And then live to the same degree. Because the point was never to spend our lives trying to outrun death or cower from it. The point was to let the certainty of death remind us to truly live well before it ever arrives. Because death doesn't take meaning from life, it demands that we create it. Thank you.
We came here expecting a speech about fear of death, but Avika left us with something far more powerful, a reminder about the value of life.
Fear will always be there. The question is whether we let it become the reason that we stop living or the reason that we start living even more fiercely.
So until death comes knocking, let's give life everything we have.
Let's give Avika another round of applause.
Now, before we end today's proceedings, we have yet another performance that will surely mesmerize you with its mind-boggling geometric patterns created through the mere movement of hands.
Let's welcome the group to end the day with a bang. That was indeed mind boggling. Can we have another round of applause for such a coordinated and well synchronized performance?
A performance like this by such a big group truly takes time and perfection.
Thank you, students.
Check. Check. Now, as this journey comes to an end, we would like to call upon Srimati Rajeshwari to honor the speakers who have given their best to spread their ideas with courage and clarity.
The speakers are requested to come forward as their names are called. Arav Bhartiya,
Kavya Prasad,
Kalva Harshita,
Anoki Kankani,
Shrey Kotari,
Avika Mundra. Thank you, ma'am.
May we request our Director of Academics and Administration, Srimati Shanti Krishnamurthy, to share a few words about the event.
Check. Hari Om children, Hari Om all the teachers and everybody gathered here. I think I would like to give my strong round of applause to all these 14 children who presented their views so very, very beautifully and effectively. It was absolutely flawless, and I think I enjoyed thoroughly the way they came here and delivered the talk. I think this is not about just the content, definitely not about the content. It is how they deliver. That is what matters in a TED talk. You come here, stand with confidence and stand with courage, and with your expressions, how you deliver it, take your views, communicate the views with the audience here. That's what it matters. For that, I think they did a wonderful job. They did a perfect job. I think we need to give them a round of applause, and really well. It was really handled so very well. And the platform the school is providing for this, I think I should really, really appreciate. These platforms are really important for children where they can, the soft skills are nurtured here. I was there in the US last about 2 months ago, and I have happened to be one of the university functions, Harvard University function. I was there, and I'm really sharing with you. There was a big political function, governors and people were there in the function, and the students who came up on the stage, they had a paper in hand, and the paper was literally shaking. We could all see how the paper was shaking, and that's what happens. Public speaking is an art by itself, and getting it nurtured here at this right age, young age, is very, very beautiful. I have my complete appreciation to the principal and the team of teachers who have worked behind the program. We should really appreciate the efforts that has gone in for this program that has made it so very beautiful and wonderful, in fact. And I have one small suggestion to make to the speakers when you're working on these topics and all of that. Don't have to go around and look for what will I speak, where will I speak, and look for some wisdom talk and all of that. Just don't do anything. Be very simple. Connect with your personal stories. That makes it more impactful. When you connect, give your own story, something which happened in your family or which you really experienced looking back in the last 15 years, something has happened that has changed your life or changed your perception. That would make a better impact. Personal stories are really, really impactful in this kind of talk. Some of them did it. Some of them gave the personal stories, which did have a difference between the other talks. talks, and everybody did well. But then this is personally, I would like to do. You don't have to show your intelligence or expertise in how I have selected the topic. The content is not at all important. How you deliver, the way you are, the expressions that you carry on, all of that matters a lot. But overall, it was a fantastic performance. Again, I would like to appreciate all the children who spoke really well, and it had a very, very big impact on sitting there and listening. Was a great joy for me. I really enjoyed the session. The whole program has been weaved so very, very beautifully. The dances, the fusion dance, and the Shakespeare shadow play, and the mathematics show here. Everything was absolutely beautiful. They delivered it very, very well. The girls who presented the Western music was outstanding. The way they sang, I was so very impressed the way it was presented. The announcers were good. It was all planned in such quick succession. Everybody did what they had to do. This is exactly what you call it as a teamwork which has happened here. I can see that. A big round of applause for the teamwork. And it really gives me a joy to see how everybody is growing together here. And these programs are getting better and better. I must thank and congratulate our audience, the parents who have been, I was told about 500 people watched the program. That's a great number. I think our parents are also supporting us, partnering us, the alumni members and the parents. I think that makes a very big strength for all of us when we are all together. And congratulations to everybody who has organized this program. Congratulations to the speakers, the performers, the announcers, the hosts who carried it so very, very beautifully. And I think this is what is called as the Yajna spirit. The Yajna spirit was displayed here so wonderfully. And it's a matter of joy for me to sit and watch here. And I've been here for so many years, and I really feel very happy that the way things are going on. Continue doing such things. In fact, one of the Trivandrum group of schools, they reached to me saying that I heard CIRS is doing this TED Talks. We want to be guided, and the article school had presented it this year, and they took a lot of guidance from our school. I think they spoke to our teachers and they took guidance. They've started. We are role models for the rest of the schools. We are creating this kind of, people can follow us so meticulously. Congratulations to all of you. Thank you so much for providing me with this opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Finally, we are here. The journey has come to an end for now.
Until the next time TED takes the stage Backyard CIS, we would like to call upon Srimati Sajita for the vote of thanks.
Hari Om. On behalf of the TED team, I take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you who has contributed towards this event. Firstly, I would like to thank Swami Anugulananda ji to take his time out and bless us with his presence. I would like to thank our director, Srimati Shanti Krishnamurthy, for constantly motivating and supporting us. Our dear principal, Srimati Rajeshwari, deserves a heartfelt thanks for her encouragement. We equally and gratefully thank our headmaster Sri Ganesh for his constant motivation. We also thank our spiritual guides to be always with us. A very special word of appreciation to the entire TED team for their hard work, dedication and teamwork in bringing this event together and making it a success. We also extend our sincere thanks to the admin team for always providing us with whatever help we asked for. A special thanks to our Annas for helping and supporting us behind the scenes. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank our IT department, Karthik sir, Mani Mekhale sir in the music department for helping out with the cultural team. And a big shout out to all the audience here for supporting, cheering us, as well as helping your friends to do whatever they wanted to say about over here. They had a lot of expressions to do. They had a lot of fear factors in them. It is all because of you that they would overcome all this. So once again, thank you and Hari Om.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's end the program with a closing prayer.
Om
पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदक्ष्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ